Did Vikings really fight naked, fueled by mushrooms? Was that a myth or a terrifying reality? Let's dive into the brutal, beautiful, and baffling world of the Norse warriors, a world where legends were forged in blood and whispered on the wind. Forget dusty textbooks. This is a story ripped straight from the heart of a raid, a saga of shields and savagery, and a glimpse into a culture that still haunts our imaginations. The rain hammered against the timbers of the longship, a relentless rhythm mirroring the anticipation thrumming through Bjorn's gut. He wasn't a chieftain, not yet. Just a second son destined for the farm, a life of plowing and predictable sunsets. But then Sigrid, the girl with eyes the color of the fjord at twilight, started wearing a brooch, a curling ornament, a symbol of something more. And the boy from the big house, the one who'd swaggered back with a borrowed sword and a tale of distant shores, started paying her attention. Suddenly, the farm felt like a cage, the predictable rhythm a suffocating drone. Bjorn, like many of his generation, found himself asking the uncomfortable question, what else was there? He started listening to the ship owners, men weathered by salt and sea, their hands calloused from gripping oars and wielding axes. He learned about raids, about plunder, about a life beyond the endless cycle of planting and harvesting. It wasn't a conscious decision, not at first. It was a slow, creeping realization that the gods themselves seemed to be whispering promises of glory and adventure. Let's be honest, the image of Vikings' horned helmets, flowing beards, and a penchant for raiding monasteries is largely a product of Victorian imagination. The truth, as always, is far more complicated and far more brutal. Archaeologists have unearthed a surprisingly diverse arsenal of weaponry, and it's a far cry from the romanticized picture. Forget the helmets. The evidence points to padded leather armor, quilted jackets offering a meager defense against glancing blows, and, for the wealthy, mail shirts painstakingly crafted from thousands of interlocking rings, a status symbol as much as a shield. Imagine the hours, the painstaking work, the sheer cost of creating a single shirt. Then there were the lamellar armor, rectangular plates sewn onto fabric, a flexible defense favored by those who traded along the river routes. These weren't just for protection, they were a statement, a testament to a connection to Eastern traditions. And the weapons. Axes, swords, spears, each honed to a deadly edge, each a potential instrument of death. But the real fascination, the thing that still captures our imaginations, is the berserkers. The naked warriors howling with fury, seemingly impervious to pain. The image is iconic, isn't it? But the reality, as researchers are uncovering, is far more nuanced. The word itself, berserk, comes from Old Norse, referring to a shirt with a bear or bear prefix, evoking the image of a warrior either clad in a bear pelt or, more unsettlingly, completely unarmored. The evidence, scattered across migration and Vendel period war gear, tapestries, coins, and even runestones, depicts figures adorned in wolf pelts, wielding swords and spears. These aren't just warriors, they're embodiments of primal rage, almost animalistic in their ferocity. And it's not just the appearance. Contemporary accounts from the Byzantine Empire describe Viking warriors howling like animals, exhibiting a frenzy that bordered on madness. But hold on. Before you conjure images of mushroom-fueled berserkers, let's debunk a persistent myth. There's no archaeological or textual evidence to support the use of hallucinogens. The berserk-walking, a distinctive, almost trance-like gait, is more likely a ritualistic performance, a way of preparing the mind and body for battle. Think of it as a warrior's meditation, a channeling of energy into a single, focus point. Consider the weapon dancers depicted on war gear, tapestries, and even runestones. These figures, often naked or clad in wolf pelts, aren't simply warriors, they're performers enacting a symbolic preparation for war. The animal masks found at Hedeby, unsettling depictions of dogs or bulls, suggest a deeper connection to the animal world, a blurring of the lines between human and beast. And then there's the inscription on the Isteby runestone, a chilling testament to a family's legacy. Hathiulfur, son of Herewulfur, cut these runes in memory of Heriulfur. Names intertwined with battle terms and wolf elements, a lineage steeped in violence, a family identity forged in the crucible of war. Let's talk about helmets. Surprisingly, they were relatively common. Only one complete example has ever been found, a rounded skull cap at G. Germanbu in Norway, adorned with a face protector and an eye guard. But even this single helmet speaks volumes. It wasn't a symbol of status, it was a practical necessity, a recognition of the inherent danger of a Viking raid. The fact that these helmets were rarely found alongside their owners suggests a profound respect for their value, a recognition that they were more than just protection, they were a treasure. Now, let's shift our focus to the ships. Longships, sleek and deadly, were the Vikings' highways, their warships, and their symbols of power. They were built for speed, for navigating treacherous waters, and for delivering a devastating blow. Imagine the roar of the oars, the spray of the sea, the anticipation of battle hanging heavy in the air. The battlefield tactics were brutal, a chaotic dance of steel and fury. The shield wall, a dense formation of overlapping shields, was the cornerstone of Viking defense, a wall of interlocking protection against enemy attacks. Spears and knives were used to stab forward, seeking gaps in the shield wall, while swords and axes were reserved for close-quarters combat. But the Vikings weren't just about brute force. They were masters of maneuverability, capable of flanking their enemies, exploiting weaknesses, and retreating when necessary. The boar's snout formation, a wedge-shaped attack, allowed them to punch through enemy ranks with devastating speed, and at sea, the battles were just as ferocious. Ships rammed each other, grappling hooks were thrown, and arrows rained down from the sky. It was a chaotic, bloody spectacle, a testament to the Vikings' skill and ruthlessness. But what about the shield maidens? These legendary warriors, often depicted in sagas, have captivated our imaginations for centuries. Are they merely products of medieval storytelling, or did they actually exist? The archaeological evidence is surprisingly compelling. In 2017, DNA analysis of a burial at Burka revealed that the woman interred in chamber grave BJ 581 was female, and she was buried with a sword and an axe, a warrior's grave. This discovery challenged long-held assumptions about the role of women in Viking society. While they weren't as numerous as male warriors, they certainly existed, and some, like Hervor, who retrieved her father's sword, were capable of wielding weapons and engaging in combat. The sagas, while often embellished, provide glimpses into a world where women could be fierce, independent, and deadly. However, it's crucial to approach these accounts with caution. The sagas were written centuries after the Viking Age, and they reflect the social values and prejudices of their time. The shield maidens may have been idealized figures, symbols of female strength and courage, rather than accurate depictions of historical reality, but let's not dismiss them entirely. The presence of female warriors in the archaeological record, combined with the recurring motif of shield maidens in the sagas, suggests that women did play a role in Viking warfare, albeit a limited one. So, what was it like to be a Viking warrior? It wasn't a glamorous life of heroic deeds and glorious battles. It was a life of hardship, danger, and constant uncertainty. It was a life of raids, plunder, and bloodshed. It was a life of loyalty, honor, and a fierce devotion to one's clan. And it all came down to a question: what do you truly value? For Bjorn, it was a chance to escape the confines of the farm, to prove himself worthy of Sigurd's attention, and to carve out a place for himself in a world of warriors and legends. But the Viking world wasn't just about raiding and warfare. It was a complex society with a rich culture, a vibrant art scene, and a deep respect for the gods. They were skilled craftsmen, master shipbuilders, and accomplished poets. They left behind a legacy of stunning art, intricate jewelry, and epic sagas that continue to inspire and fascinate us today. The question of the berserkers remains one of the most enduring mysteries of the Viking Age. Were they truly driven to madness by the consumption of hallucinogens? Or were they simply warriors who had tapped into a primal rage, a state of heightened awareness and aggression? The evidence suggests the latter. The berserk-walking, a distinctive gait, was likely a ritualistic performance, a way of preparing the mind and body for battle. Think of it as a warrior's meditation, a channeling of energy into a single, focused point. It wasn't about madness, it was about control. The animal imagery associated with the berserkers' wolves, bears, boars speaks to a deep connection with the natural world, a recognition of the primal forces that shaped their lives. The animal masks found at Hedeby, unsettling depictions of dogs or bulls, suggest a deeper connection to the animal world, a blurring of the lines between human and beast. And then there's the inscription on the Isteby runestone, a chilling testament to a family's legacy. Hathewulfur, son of Herewulfur, cut these runes in memory of Heriulfur. Names intertwined with battle terms and wolf elements, a lineage steeped in violence, a family identity forged in the crucible of war. The Vikings weren't just warriors, they were storytellers, poets, and craftsmen. They were explorers, traders, and raiders. They were a complex and fascinating people, and their legacy continues to shape our world today. But as we delve deeper into the Viking Age, we must remember that the past is never simple. It's a tangled web of myths, legends, and historical realities, a collection of fragments that we must piece together with care and consideration. So the next time you think of Vikings, don't just picture horned helmets and longships. Remember the shield maidens, the berserkers, the skilled craftsmen, and the fearless warriors. Remember the complex society that thrived in the shadow of the fjords, a culture that continues to captivate and inspire us centuries later. And finally, the most important question of all, if you could step back in time and join a Viking raid, would you grab a sword, a shield, and a place at the front of the line?